Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever found yourself overwhelmed by anger because of someone else's words or actions? Have you ever lost sleep over an offense that someone caused you? Today I want to teach you how to live a life free from anger, frustration, and offense. A life where no one has the power to steal your peace. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions known to mankind, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Many people believe that anger is caused by external forces, by what others say, what they do, or the circumstances they create. However, the truth is that anger does not originate outside of us. It is produced from within. Understanding this fundamental truth is the key to never being controlled by anger again. If we fail to recognize where anger truly comes from, we will always blame others for our emotional state and continue living in a cycle of frustration, resentment, and unnecessary conflict. At its core, anger is often a response to unmet expectations. Every person holds a set of expectations, whether spoken or unspoken, about how others should behave, how life should unfold, and how circumstances should align with their desires. When reality does not match these expectations, frustration begins to build. This frustration, when left unchecked, turns into anger. For example, if a person expects their spouse to always agree with them and suddenly faces disagreement, they may feel disrespected, leading to anger. If an employee expects their boss to always recognize their efforts, but instead receives criticism, they might feel unappreciated, sparking resentment. The anger does not arise from the disagreement or the criticism itself, but from the expectation that was not met. Another source of anger is a sense of powerlessness. When people feel trapped, unheard, or unable to control a situation, frustration builds up, and anger becomes a form of protest against their perceived lack of power. This is why children throw tantrums. They lack the ability to fully express their emotions or control their environment, so their frustration manifests as outbursts. Adults are no different. When a person feels like they are not in control of a situation, whether in their workplace, relationships, or personal struggles, they may lash out in anger, even when the real issue lies in their own sense of helplessness. The key to overcoming this source of anger is recognizing that control is often an illusion. The only thing we truly control is ourselves, our thoughts, our responses, and our actions. The more we focus on mastering our internal world rather than controlling external circumstances, the less anger will find a home in our hearts. Misinterpretation is another major trigger of anger. Many conflicts arise not because of what was actually said or done, but because of how it was perceived. Human beings interpret words and actions based on their own experiences, biases, and emotional state. If someone makes a comment that is neutral in nature, but the listener has past wounds related to that topic, they may take offense and respond with anger. This is why two people can experience the same event and react in completely different ways. One may brush it off, while the other feels deeply wounded. The difference is not in the event itself, but in how it was interpreted. Learning to pause and ask, what did they really mean, rather than reacting impulsively, can prevent unnecessary anger and conflict. Unresolved past pain is one of the deepest and most destructive sources of anger. Many people are carrying emotional wounds from years, even decades past. These wounds, when not healed, create a reservoir of anger that is easily triggered by present situations. A person who was betrayed in a previous relationship may react with intense anger at even the smallest sign of dishonesty in their current relationship. Someone who was constantly criticized as a child may explode in anger when they receive feedback at work. The reaction is not truly about the present moment. It is about the unresolved emotions of the past that are resurfacing. True healing requires self-awareness and intentional effort to release past pain. Until this healing takes place, anger will continue to arise, seemingly out of nowhere, and control a person's life. Another common source of anger is comparison. In today's world, where people are constantly exposed to the highlights of others' lives through social media and other platforms, comparison has become a dangerous trap. When individuals feel that they are falling behind, that others are receiving what they believe they deserve, or that life is treating them unfairly, frustration turns into bitterness and resentment. This resentment then manifests as anger toward others, toward society, and even toward themselves. The solution to this form of anger is gratitude and self-acceptance. When a person shifts their focus from what they lack to what they have, from what others are doing to what they are capable of achieving, they reclaim their peace and neutralize the toxic effects of comparison. Another overlooked source of anger is exhaustion, both physical and emotional. A tired mind is an irritable mind. When people are mentally, emotionally, or physically drained, their patience is significantly reduced, making them more prone to anger. This is why stress and anger are so closely linked. When a person is overwhelmed with responsibilities, dealing with pressure, or carrying emotional burdens, even the smallest inconvenience can trigger an explosion of frustration. This is not because the situation itself is severe, but because the person's internal capacity to handle stress is already depleted. Prioritizing rest, relaxation, and self-care is not just a luxury, it is a necessity for maintaining emotional balance. A well-rested person responds to challenges with clarity and composure, while an exhausted person reacts with anger and impatience. Pride and ego play a significant role in the generation of anger. Many times, anger is not a reaction to an actual offense, but a defense mechanism to protect one's ego. When people feel that their pride has been wounded, that they have been embarrassed, or that their status has been challenged, they often respond with anger as a way to reassert control. This is especially common in arguments where the real goal is not to resolve the issue, but to win the exchange. The antidote to this type of anger is humility. When a person understands that their worth is not defined by others' opinions, that they do not need to prove themselves through conflict, and that true strength lies in composure, they become immune to the triggers of prideful anger. Anger is not something that others impose on us. It is something we allow ourselves to feel based on our perceptions, expectations, and emotional state. The more we understand the true sources of anger, the more power we have to break free from its control. Recognizing that anger is not a force outside of us, but a response within us, shifts the responsibility from others to ourselves. It empowers us to take control of our emotions, regulate our responses, and ultimately live a life that is peaceful, free, and unshaken by the actions of others. Self-restraint is one of the most powerful attributes a person can develop. It is the foundation of emotional intelligence, the key to strong relationships, and the secret to living a life of peace and stability. Without self-control, emotions become rulers instead of servants, dictating decisions, damaging relationships, and leading to regret. True success, whether in personal relationships, business, or any area of life, is determined not just by talent or opportunity, but by the ability to govern oneself in the face of challenges, temptations, and provocations. A person who has mastered self-control understands that emotions are not meant to be suppressed but managed with wisdom. Suppressing emotions leads to frustration, while indulging in them without restraint leads to destruction. Self-control is the balance between these extremes. It is the ability to feel anger but not act on it recklessly, to experience frustration but not allow it to cloud judgment, to have desires but not be enslaved by them. It is the power to pause, reflect, and choose the best course of action rather than being led by impulses. One of the greatest challenges to self-control is the human tendency to react instantly to provocation. Many people live in a reactionary state, responding to situations without considering the consequences. A harsh word spoken in anger, a decision made in frustration, or an action taken in haste can cause lasting damage. Regret often follows uncontrolled emotions. Words cannot be taken back, trust cannot be instantly restored, and opportunities lost due to impulsive decisions may never return. A wise person understands that responding with self-control is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. The ability to remain calm under pressure and composed in the face of offense is one of the greatest demonstrations of maturity and wisdom. Self-play also plays a vital role in relationships. Whether in marriage, friendships, or professional environments, the ability to regulate emotions determines the quality of interactions. A person who is easily angered, defensive, or emotionally volatile will struggle to maintain healthy relationships. Love, trust, and respect are built on stability, not on unpredictability. People naturally feel safe around those who exhibit self-control because they know that their words and actions will be met with wisdom rather than reckless emotion. Relationships thrive in an atmosphere of patience, understanding, and self-discipline. Another area where self-control is essential is in handling desires and temptations. Every person has desires. Some are good and lead to growth, while others, if left unchecked, can lead to destruction. The ability to control one's cravings, whether for food, pleasure, power, or recognition, is what separates those who succeed in life from those who are enslaved by their impulses. Many great individuals have fallen not because of a lack of talent or intelligence, but because they lack control over their appetites. Without self-discipline, short-term pleasure often takes priority over long-term success. The ability to say no to immediate gratification in pursuit of a greater goal is the mark of true wisdom. Self-retreat is also critical in managing stress and pressure. Life will always present challenges, disappointments, and obstacles. People will say things that offend, situations will arise that test patience, and circumstances will not always go according to plan. In those moments, the difference between those who succeed and those who fall apart is self-retreat. The ability to remain calm, to think clearly, and to respond with wisdom rather than emotion determines the outcome of any situation. A person who lacks self-control is easily overwhelmed by stress, but one who has mastered self-discipline remains steady even in the storm. The development of self-control begins with self-awareness. A person must first recognize their triggers, the situations, words, or behaviors that tend to provoke emotional reactions. Once identified, these triggers can be managed effectively. The next step is learning to pause before reacting. Many mistakes are made in moments of heightened emotion simply because there was no pause between feeling and action. Taking a deep breath, counting to 10, or stepping away from the situation momentarily can prevent impulsive decisions. Another key to mastering self-control is developing a strong mindset. A person's thoughts shape their emotions, and their emotions influence their actions. Those who constantly dwell on negativity, offense, or past hurts will find it difficult to exercise self-control. However, those who train their minds to focus on solutions, gratitude, and personal growth will find that their emotional responses naturally become more balanced. Feeding the mind with wisdom, whether through books, mentors, or personal reflection, strengthens the ability to govern emotions effectively. Discipline in small areas of life strengthens self-control in greater challenges. Practicing self-control in daily habits such as waking up on time, managing one's words, and following through on commitments builds the internal strength necessary to handle bigger tests of discipline. When a person consistently exercises self-control in the small things, it becomes second nature in more significant areas of life. One of the greatest rewards of self-control is the ability to live in peace. A person who is controlled by emotions experiences constant turmoil, but one who has mastered self-discipline remains at peace regardless of external circumstances. They are not easily offended, not easily shaken, and not easily led astray by momentary emotions. Their relationships flourish, their decisions are wise, and their path in life remains steady. Self-control is not just a skill, it is a way of life that leads to stability, success, and true inner freedom. Emotional intelligence is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop because it governs how well they understand themselves, interact with others, and navigate the complexities of life. It is not simply about managing emotions, but about mastering the ability to recognize, interpret, and respond to them in a way that fosters personal growth, strengthens relationships, and leads to a fulfilling life. While intelligence may open doors to opportunities, it is emotional intelligence that determines how well those opportunities are handled. The ability to manage emotions effectively allows individuals to make wise decisions, communicate with clarity, and maintain composure in any situation. Understanding emotions begins with self-awareness. A person cannot control what they do not recognize. Many people react to situations without fully understanding why they feel a certain way. They may experience frustration, anger, or sadness without taking the time to analyze the root cause. Developing emotional intelligence requires a deep level of introspection, where individuals examine their thoughts, feelings, and reactions to identify patterns that influence their behavior. When a person becomes aware of their emotional triggers, they gain the power to respond intentionally rather than impulsively. They learn to pause, reflect, and choose a course of action that aligns with their values and long-term goals, rather than being driven by fleeting emotions. Another key aspect of emotional intelligence is self-regulation. Emotions are natural, but they should never be allowed to control actions. Without regulation, emotions can lead to destructive behavior, impulsive decisions, and damaged relationships. The ability to remain calm under pressure, to think clearly in times of distress, and to avoid acting out of anger or fear is what separates emotionally intelligent individuals from those who are ruled by their emotions. Self-regulation is not about suppressing emotions, but about channeling them in a productive way. It involves learning to step back from a heated moment, reassessing the situation, and responding with wisdom rather than impulse. People who master this skill become more stable, reliable, and respected because they handle situations with a level of maturity that inspires confidence in others. Empathy is one of the most powerful components of emotional intelligence. It is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, to put oneself in their shoes, and to respond with compassion. People who lack empathy often struggle in their relationships because they are unable to connect with others on an emotional level. They may dismiss the feelings of others, react with indifference, or fail to recognize how their words and actions impact those around them. On the other hand, individuals who cultivate empathy are able to build strong, meaningful relationships because they listen actively, show genuine concern, and respond in ways that validate and uplift others. Empathy allows for deeper connections, fosters trust, and creates an environment where people feel understood and valued. Social awareness and relationship management are crucial elements of emotional intelligence. Understanding one's own emotions is important, but the ability to read and interpret the emotions of others is just as essential. This requires paying close attention to verbal and nonverbal cues, tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, and even the unspoken words that reveal what a person is truly feeling. People who develop this skill are able to navigate social interactions with ease, resolve conflicts more effectively, and influence others in a positive way. They can sense when someone is upset, recognize when tension is rising, and adjust their approach to maintain harmony and understanding. In both personal and professional settings, those who excel in social awareness are more successful in leadership, teamwork, and interpersonal relationships because they know how to communicate in a way that resonates with others. Another important aspect of emotional intelligence is the ability to handle criticism and setbacks with grace. Many people struggle with receiving feedback because they take it as a personal attack rather than an opportunity for growth. However, those who have developed emotional intelligence understand that criticism, when given constructively, is a tool for improvement. Instead of reacting defensively or shutting down, they listen, analyze the feedback objectively, and use it to refine their skills and behaviors. They do not allow failures to define them or setbacks to discourage them. Instead, they approach challenges with resilience, adaptability, and a mindset focused on learning and progress. Emotional intelligence also plays a significant role in decision-making. Emotions influence choices more than most people realize, and those who fail to recognize this can make decisions that are based on temporary feelings rather than sound reasoning. A person who reacts out of anger may make a choice they later regret, while someone who is overly excited may overlook important risks. Emotionally intelligent individuals are able to separate emotions from logic, weighing the facts, while also considering how their decisions will impact themselves and others. They understand that emotions should inform decisions, not dictate them. This balance allows them to make choices that are not only rational, but also compassionate and ethical. The ability to develop emotional intelligence requires continuous effort, practice, and reflection. It is not something that is mastered overnight, but rather a lifelong journey of self-improvement. As individuals become more emotionally intelligent, they find that their relationships improve, their stress levels decrease, and their ability to navigate life's challenges becomes significantly stronger. They gain the respect and trust of others because they are seen as stable, understanding, and capable of handling situations with wisdom and grace. Emotional intelligence is the key to personal and professional success. because it allows individuals to build strong connections, communicate effectively, and make decisions that lead to long-term fulfillment and harmony. The way people perceive others determines the way they interact with them, the way they respond to their actions, and ultimately, the way they experience life. A negative or narrow perspective on people can lead to frustration, disappointment, and unnecessary conflict, while a broader and more understanding perspective can foster patience, compassion, and peace. Often, people judge others based on their own expectations, experiences, and assumptions rather than seeking to understand the deeper reasons behind their behavior. Many conflicts arise not because of what was said or done, but because of how it was interpreted. Learning to shift perspectives allows individuals to develop healthier relationships, navigate challenges with wisdom, and maintain emotional stability in all interactions. One of the greatest misunderstandings people have about others is assuming that they think, feel, and react in the same way they do. Every person has a unique background, a different upbringing, and a set of experiences that shape the way they behave. What seems obvious to one person may be entirely foreign to another. A reaction that appears rude or dismissive may not be an act of disrespect, but rather a reflection of how someone was raised or what they have been through. Instead of immediately reacting with offense or frustration, taking a moment to consider the other person's perspective can prevent unnecessary misunderstandings. It is easy to judge someone based on a single moment or action without understanding the full story behind it. People also tend to assume that others' actions are always directed at them personally, when in reality most behavior has nothing to do with them. A short response, a lack of enthusiasm, or even an apparent act of neglect is often the result of someone else's internal struggles rather than an intentional slight. Everyone carries burdens that are invisible to others. A person may be going through financial difficulties, dealing with personal loss, or struggling with their own insecurities. When people learn to view others through the lens of understanding rather than suspicion, they become less reactive and more compassionate. Instead of taking offense, they develop the ability to extend grace, knowing that most behavior is a reflection of an individual's internal world rather than an attack on them. Another important shift in perspective is recognizing that people are at different levels of personal growth. Not everyone has the same level of wisdom, emotional intelligence, or maturity. Expecting someone who has never learned emotional regulation to respond with patience, or expecting someone who has never experienced kindness to act with compassion is unrealistic. Growth is a process, and people are constantly evolving. Holding on to rigid expectations that others should act according to personal standards leads to disappointment. When individuals recognize that people are at different stages in their journey, they develop the ability to be patient, understanding, and supportive, rather than critical and frustrated. Many conflicts arise because people expect others to fulfill their emotional needs, validate them, or treat them exactly how they desire to be treated. However, no one is responsible for another person's happiness, self-worth, or emotional well-being. Expecting people to meet personal needs creates an unnecessary burden on relationships and often leads to disappointment. A healthy perspective acknowledges that while relationships add value to life, they are not the source of fulfillment. When people release the expectation that others must behave in a certain way to make them feel whole, they experience greater freedom, stronger relationships, and less frustration. Changing the perspective on people also involves recognizing that everyone has flaws, including oneself. Many times individuals hold others to higher standards than they hold themselves. They expect patience but do not extend it. They demand honesty but justify their own dishonesty. And they want understanding but fail to offer the same. When people realize that they too have shortcomings and moments of weakness, it becomes easier to be forgiving toward others. No one is perfect, and everyone is in the process of learning and growing. The same grace that a person desires when they make mistakes should be the same grace they extend to others. Another powerful perspective shift is seeing people as teachers rather than obstacles. Every person encountered, whether pleasant or difficult, has something to teach. Challenging individuals provide opportunities to develop patience, strengthen emotional discipline, and practice wisdom. Instead of seeing difficult people as sources of frustration, viewing them as opportunities for personal growth changes the way they are approached. Even those who seem unkind or unreasonable can serve as reminders of the type of person one does not want to become. When people adopt the mindset that every interaction is a chance to grow, they become less reactive and more intentional in their responses. Letting go of the need to control others is another crucial shift in perspective. Many frustrations come from trying to change people or expecting them to behave differently. The truth is that no one has control over another person's actions, only over their own responses. When people accept that they cannot change others but can choose how they respond, they reclaim their peace. Instead of wasting energy trying to correct or fix people, they focus on becoming the best version of themselves. Ironically, this often leads to greater influence because people are more inspired by those who lead by example than by those who try to force change upon them. A changed perspective on people leads to a changed experience in life. When people choose to see others with understanding rather than judgment, with patience rather than frustration, and with grace rather than criticism, they create a world that is more peaceful and fulfilling. They free themselves from the burden of unnecessary offense, develop stronger relationships, and cultivate a mindset that allows them to navigate any situation with wisdom and composure. The way people see others ultimately determines how they see themselves and how they move through the world. Those who choose to see the best in others often find that they experience the best in life. Patience is one of the most powerful virtues a person can cultivate. It is the foundation of wisdom, the key to maintaining peace, and the strength behind endurance. In a world that prioritizes instant gratification, the ability to wait, endure, and remain composed in all situations has become rare. Yet patience is what separates those who succeed from those who give up too soon, those who build lasting relationships from those who struggle with constant conflict, and those who maintain inner peace from those who are constantly stressed and frustrated. It is not merely the ability to wait, but the attitude and mindset maintained while waiting. It is a discipline that strengthens character, refines perspective, and builds resilience in the face of challenges. One of the greatest tests of patience is dealing with people. Relationships, whether personal or professional, require patience to thrive. Every person is different, shaped by unique experiences, habits, and ways of thinking. Expecting immediate understanding, agreement, or change from others is unrealistic. People need time to grow, to learn, and to process emotions. A patient person understands that relationships take time to develop, conflicts take time to resolve, and change takes time to manifest. They do not force situations, but instead allow things to unfold naturally, guiding with wisdom rather than pressure. Impatience in relationships often leads to misunderstandings, frustration, and unnecessary arguments, while patience fosters understanding, harmony, and deeper connections. Patience is also crucial in personal growth. Many people become discouraged when they do not see immediate results in their efforts. Whether it is learning a new skill, pursuing a dream, or developing a better mindset, true progress takes time. Growth is not always visible in the moment, but every effort, every lesson, and every challenge contributes to the bigger picture. Those who lack patience often give up too soon, failing to realize that success is built over time. Every great achievement is the result of persistent effort, discipline, and the patience to keep going despite obstacles. A patient person embraces the process, understanding that every small step forward is a part of the journey toward greatness. Challenges and hardships are another area where patience is tested. Life does not always go according to plan. Delays, disappointments, and setbacks are inevitable. The way a person responds to these moments determines whether they become stronger or defeated. An impatient mind becomes restless, frustrated, and discouraged when faced with difficulties. But a patient mind remains steady, knowing that everything happens in its time. Patience allows a person to endure storms without breaking, to remain hopeful when answers are not immediate, and to trust that challenges are temporary. Those who master patience do not allow external circumstances to dictate their peace. They understand that life is a series of seasons, and just as winter eventually gives way to spring, difficult times will also pass. Patience also plays a significant role in decision-making. Impulsive decisions are often made in moments of frustration, fear, or excitement, leading to regret. Many people make hasty choices based on temporary emotions rather than long-term wisdom. Patience allows time for reflection, ensuring that decisions are made with clarity and foresight rather than impulse. It prevents unnecessary mistakes, regrets, and the consequences of acting without proper thought. Those who practice patience in decision-making find that their choices lead to better outcomes, stability, and long-term success. One of the most profound aspects of patience is the inner peace it creates. An impatient person is often restless, anxious, and easily irritated. They constantly feel the need to rush, to push, to control situations, leading to stress and frustration. A patient person, however, is calm, steady, and at peace with the process of life. They do not allow circumstances to dictate their emotions, nor do they let temporary discomfort disturb their inner stability. Patience brings a sense of confidence, knowing that everything will happen at the right time, in the right way. It removes unnecessary worry and allows a person to fully experience the present moment, without constantly yearning for what is next. Patience also builds character. It strengthens resilience, teaching a person how to endure, how to adapt, and how to remain strong in the face of difficulties. It develops self-control, allowing emotions to be managed rather than dictated by external pressures. It fosters humility, as it reminds a person that they are not always in control of time or circumstances. It nurtures gratitude, as it shifts focus from what is lacking to what is already present. A patient person is not easily swayed by temporary emotions or setbacks because they have developed the strength to endure without losing sight of the bigger picture. Practicing patience requires intentionality. It is not something that happens overnight, but a discipline that must be cultivated daily. It begins with small acts, such as controlling reactions in frustrating situations, resisting the urge for instant gratification, and allowing time for growth without rushing the process. It is a mindset that must be reinforced through reflection, self-awareness, and conscious effort. The more patience is practiced, the more natural it becomes, leading to a life that is calmer, wiser, and more fulfilled. The power of patience is limitless. It is the ability to wait without frustration, to trust without fear, and to persevere without losing hope. It strengthens relationships, fosters growth, and provides stability in an unpredictable world. Those who master patience do not live in a state of constant stress or agitation, but move through life with a sense of confidence and inner peace. They understand that everything of true value takes time to develop, and that the rewards of patience far outweigh the temporary satisfaction of immediate results. They embrace the process, knowing that patience is not just about waiting, but about maintaining the right attitude and mindset while doing so. Living above offense is one of the most powerful ways to maintain inner peace, emotional stability, and healthy relationships. Offense is a trap that keeps people bound in anger, resentment, and unnecessary conflict. When a person allows themselves to be easily offended, they hand over control of their emotions to others, reacting based on what people say or do rather than maintaining their own sense of composure. Living above offense does not mean ignoring injustice or tolerating mistreatment. It means choosing not to be emotionally disturbed by every negative word, action, or misunderstanding. It is about developing the strength to rise above situations that would otherwise cause frustration and learning to respond with wisdom rather than impulse. Many people spend their lives constantly upset because of what others say or how they are treated. They take words personally, replay negative interactions in their minds, and allow the opinions of others to dictate their mood. This cycle of offense leads to unnecessary stress, broken relationships, and emotional exhaustion. But the reality is that no one can go through life without encountering criticism, opposition, or disagreement. The key is not in trying to avoid these situations, but in learning how to rise above them. People will always have opinions. Some will misunderstand and others will act out of their own pain. Choosing not to be offended is an act of wisdom that protects emotional well-being and prevents the unnecessary weight of carrying grudges. One of the main reasons people get offended is that they expect others to act, speak, or think in a way that aligns with their personal standards. However, every person comes from a different background, carries different experiences, and processes situations differently. Expecting people to always meet personal expectations is unrealistic and often leads to disappointment. A person who lives above offense understands that not everyone will treat them as they would like to be treated, and instead of being disturbed by it, they choose to respond with patience and understanding. They recognize that many offensive actions are not personal, but are a reflection of the other person's state of mind, level of maturity, or past experiences. Another important aspect of living above offense is mastering emotional control. Many people react impulsively when they feel disrespected, criticized, or ignored. They allow emotions to dictate their response rather than taking a moment to reflect. But reacting in anger or frustration often escalates situations rather than resolving them. A person who has mastered emotional control understands that they do not have to attend every argument they are invited to. They learn to pause, assess the situation objectively, and choose a response that aligns with wisdom rather than emotion. When a person refuses to be easily provoked, they maintain power over their emotions and do not allow others to dictate their peace. Forgiveness is also a crucial element of living above offense. Holding on to offense creates a burden that affects emotional and mental well-being. Resentment does not harm the person who caused the offense as much as it harms the one who holds onto it. Choosing to forgive does not mean approving of wrong behavior, but it means releasing the emotional hold that offense has over one's life. It is a conscious decision to move forward rather than remain stuck in the past. People who practice forgiveness experience greater peace, freedom, and emotional stability because they refuse to allow negative experiences to shape their present and future. Perspective plays a significant role in overcoming offense. Many times, what is perceived as an offense is simply a misunderstanding or a difference in communication styles. People interpret words and actions based on their own experiences, and sometimes what was said or done was not intended to be offensive. Developing the ability to see beyond immediate emotions and consider alternative explanations helps prevent unnecessary conflicts. A person who lives above offense seeks to understand before reacting and gives others the benefit of the doubt. Instead of assuming negative intent, they choose to extend grace and move forward without harboring resentment. Another essential aspect of overcoming offense is learning to set healthy boundaries. While it is important to rise above small offenses, it is also necessary to recognize when a pattern of harmful behavior needs to be addressed. Living above offense does not mean tolerating repeated disrespect or mistreatment. It means handling situations with wisdom, addressing issues calmly when necessary, and making decisions that protect emotional well-being. People who master this balance do not allow offense to consume them, but they also do not permit unhealthy behavior to continue unchecked. They understand that peace comes from both letting go of small grievances and establishing boundaries where needed. Living above offense ultimately leads to a more fulfilling and peaceful life. It allows a person to focus on what truly matters rather than wasting energy on negativity. Those who refuse to be easily offended build stronger relationships because they do not allow minor disagreements or misunderstandings to ruin meaningful connections. They experience greater emotional freedom because they are not carrying unnecessary burdens of resentment. They navigate life with a sense of confidence, knowing that they control their own emotions rather than being controlled by the actions of others. The ability to rise above offense is a sign of maturity, wisdom, and strength. It requires self-awareness, emotional control, and a commitment to peace. Every day presents opportunities to either take offense or to let go and move forward. Those who choose the latter experience a life that is not dictated by negativity, but is instead filled with clarity, stability, and joy. They become unshaken by the words and actions of others because they have learned that their peace is worth more than any temporary frustration. They live with a sense of freedom, knowing that they alone determine the state of their hearts and minds. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts a person can embrace. It is not merely an emotional response, but a deliberate choice that leads to inner freedom, peace, and personal growth. Many people live burdened by the weight of past hurts, carrying resentment, anger, and pain from experiences that have shaped them. Yet, holding on to these emotions does not harm the one who caused the pain as much as it harms the one carrying it. True freedom comes when a person decides to release the past, let go of bitterness, and walk in forgiveness. It is not about excusing the wrong, but about refusing to let it control the future. When a person refuses to forgive, they remain bound to the very thing that hurt them. The mind replays the event, the emotions remain raw, and the pain continues long after the initial offense. The reality is that unforgiveness does not imprison the offender. It imprisons the one holding on to it. It keeps the heart in a constant state of turmoil, preventing true joy and peace from taking root. Many people believe that by holding on to anger or resentment, they are somehow protecting themselves from being hurt again. But in reality, they are prolonging their own suffering. Forgiveness is not about weakness. It is about strength. It takes courage to let go of pain and rise above offense. One of the greatest misconceptions about forgiveness is that it is for the benefit of the other person. While it may bring healing to relationships and restore connections, its primary purpose is to set the person forgiving free. It is not about condoning wrong behavior or pretending that the hurt did not happen. It is about choosing not to be controlled by it anymore. Life is too precious to be weighed down by the actions of others. Holding on to resentment only robs a person of the present, as their mind is constantly occupied with the past. When a person forgives, they make space for peace, love, and growth in their life. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. Many people struggle with the idea that if they forgive, they must erase the memory of what happened. But forgiveness is not about pretending something never occurred. It is about changing the way it affects a person. The memory may remain, but its power to hurt and control emotions diminishes. The goal is not to erase but to heal, to remember without pain, and to move forward without carrying the emotional weight of the past. Letting go does not always mean reconciliation. While forgiveness can restore relationships, it is also possible to forgive without re-establishing connection. Some situations involve deep betrayal, repeated harm, or toxic behavior that requires distance. Forgiveness does not require returning to unhealthy patterns. It simply means releasing the emotional hold that the offense has on the heart. It is possible to forgive someone and still set boundaries, ensuring that future harm does not continue. Forgiveness is not about putting oneself in a position to be hurt again. It is about freeing oneself from the burden of carrying pain. The process of forgiveness requires a shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on the hurt caused, a person must choose to focus on their own healing. Often those who hurt others do so from their own pain, brokenness, or ignorance. Understanding this does not excuse the behavior, but it allows the heart to release bitterness. Choosing to see the situation with wisdom rather than emotion enables a person to move beyond the offense. It takes maturity to recognize that every person has weaknesses, makes mistakes, and is in their own process of growth. Holding on to offense does not change the past, but releasing it creates a better future. Many people hesitate to forgive because they feel the other person does not deserve it. They wait for an apology, for recognition of the wrong, or for the person to change. But forgiveness is not dependent on the other person. It is a personal decision. Some people will never apologize, some will never admit their wrongs, and some will never change. If forgiveness is withheld until the offender makes things right, the person hurt remains stuck in an endless cycle of waiting. True freedom comes when forgiveness is given, regardless of whether the other person acknowledges the hurt. It is about releasing oneself from the need for validation and choosing peace over pain. Forgiveness is an act of self-love. It is a way of protecting the heart from being consumed by anger and bitterness. Choosing to forgive is choosing joy, choosing peace, and choosing to move forward. It is refusing to allow past experiences to dictate future happiness. People who practice forgiveness live lighter, love deeper, and experience greater freedom. They do not allow pain to define them, but instead use it as a stepping stone to greater wisdom and strength. The power of forgiveness is transformative. It changes the way a person views themselves, others, and life. It allows wounds to heal, relationships to be restored, and inner peace to take root. Every person has the ability to forgive, but it is a choice that must be made. The decision to hold on to offense or to release it determines the quality of life a person experiences. Those who choose forgiveness choose freedom. They refuse to be prisoners of their past and instead embrace the fullness of life with an open heart. They walk without the weight of resentment, knowing that true strength is found in letting go.